Picture my life, Viva Frei. This picture is over 100 years old. I don't know who these people are, I just know that they're family. This is my grandfather, Poland, mid-1930s, shortly before he escaped. And this is my grandfather after he escaped, somewhere in Argentina. He would eventually make his way to Canada to lay his own roots and start his own family. This is me in the arms of my grandfather. He would die later that year. And my mother in the arms of her father. He would die when she was only 13 years old. And her mother, never remarried, spent the rest of her life without her husband. Here is my mother, sometime in the 1980s, sporting her best 80s hairdo. And my father, young, happy, proud. And few things make someone prouder than their sons and daughters. That's me, the gelatinous blob in the arms of his two oldest brothers. And dogs. Dogs are God's gift to humankind. Growing up the youngest of 5 kids is an interesting experience. You always have people looking out for you and showing you the ropes. And in that sense, you really are always standing on the shoulders of giants. You always had someone to play with, even when you didn't want someone to play with. You always had someone who was better than you at something, which kind of pushed you to succeed. And you probably got away with a little more than most kids would get away with. Something about having parents who are just very, very tired. This was my favorite toy growing up, my monster doll. I still remember the way it smelt. And this was my favorite thing to do growing up. It's still my favorite thing to do. And my dad with the car that he was so proud of, I would end up destroying this car in an accident. And Winston, the first dog I ever had from day one right to the end. But we had other animals, George and Peggy Sue, our red-eared turtles. We were a family that loved nature and the outdoors. And although I had no way of knowing it, somewhere out there in the universe, my future wife, mother of our children, was growing up herself. This is what I looked like when we first met, me at my coolest. We had the strange opportunity of meeting at the turn of the millennium. At a time when the world was about to end because of a missing zero in some code. But we survived and we continued to get to know each other. Love at first sight is a misunderstood concept. People tend to regard it as perspective, whereas I feel it's retrospective. I didn't know at the time I was going to marry her, build a life with her. And I have no doubt that she did not know that she was going to do that with me either. But in looking back on it, it was already written before we knew it. The adventures we shared together were but a foreshadowing of what was to come. Selfies, fishing, nature walks, mac and cheese on tidal rivers, and weddings. Lots and lots of weddings. Kierkegaard famously wrote that life can only be understood backwards, but it must be lived forwards. Every success of your life, every failure of your life, every idiotic thing I had ever done in my life brought me to her. Brought us together. This is us at Blink 182 in Paris. I got pushed out of the picture. She has come to love me for who I am. And I love her for who she is. 2 separate individuals with 2 separate histories, being brought together by the forces of nature. And creating universes of their own. Not once, not twice, but 3 times. This is my father-in-law, gone too early, but at least he got to meet 1 grandchild. Although I like to believe that although he's no longer with us, he's still gotten to meet the other 2. And so the cycle of life and love continues. People like atoms bouncing around and colliding with one another, and occasionally fusing together to create something totally new and unique. Picture my life.